Yeah. Perfect. All right. So welcome to day four of the Witches Online Belly Dance Festival. Thank you to everybody who's joining in from everywhere around the world. I know y'all are all looking forward to keeping your dance practice strong. Some of y'all are not even into belly dance as a mainstream practice, but have artists or even people who've been joining because we've been telling everyone, hey, this is also for non-dancers. So, in fact, today's workshop is geared towards just about anyone who wants to ensure that they can have a along with a full-time job or a full-time other things that they have going on in their lives. So yeah, welcome to everybody. This is yes a festival which is all inclusive. We have kept it donation based because we do not want to exclude anybody who may not be able to or do have the funds to be able to procure. So yeah, so that's the idea is to make it something that we all can lean into, something that we all can draw from. We have this amazing network of teachers who have stepped forward and stepped up to supporting us for this amazing, important cause. So I thank all our teachers. I also thank all our collaborators. You saw we've got so many collaborators here. We will be shining the light on each one of them. In fact, we will be today talking about the Belly Dance Business Academy. So yeah, and just a few announcements is that do start a watch party when you're here because it helps to spread the love and the message. So it's pretty easy. You will just see a button at the bottom of your live video which says share or start. And if you hit that, you will see start a watch party, right? So that's how your network gets to know you're watching something interesting and important, and they can also benefit from you. And those who start a watch party, send us a screenshot and we'll be ready to surprise you, right? And the videos are up for not for 24, but now for 48 hours because we've decided to extend it. I know a lot of you are eager to learn and grow, and yes, there's a lot of material, a lot of content, and also given the situation now with the global news, it's hard to keep up with everything. So we've decided to keep it for 48 hours, right? And do share your love and your support by sharing our campaign on your social media, and definitely we look forward to your give back. This festival, of course, has come to you with a lot of effort, it's a labor of love project, and the whole idea is to form a community, a set of dancers who can come together and support each other. So do complete that circle of giving by doing your bit. The NGO that we are working with, it's one of the largest in India. You could totally check out their website. The links are also on this Facebook group. So feel free to donate. They said that each family needs about $50 to have basic essentials for the month. So now, just to give you a sense, because some people have asked me, how much do you think we should donate? This is just to give you a sense of what is requirement of a family that we're talking about here. So these are Indian migrant workers who've had to go home by foot, many of them walking 100,000 kilometers, many of them dying, starving. They don't have a support system at all. They're being lost in the shadows. They're the ones who built our cities. And as much as you may not be an Indian, I think it's just about, we're talking about supporting a part of humanity. At the end of the day, we are all in this together. As much as even our festival, we did take cognizance of what's happening in the US, and I think it was very important for us to pause the show to show solidarity. And I think no longer our borders, we're recognizing that borders are melting away and we are facing things as a human race. So yeah, feel free, and I would really love to see support for our Indian migrant workers. So, well, I won't talk so much. I will introduce you to Lisa as our guest teacher for today. Lisa is the co-owner of the Belly Dance Business Academy. Oh my God, Belly Dance Business Academy is a pillar to our project. Terry and Lisa have been really very generous in terms of contributing to this project at every level. In terms of the thought process, they have come forward, given suggestions, support. They have been very welcoming of ideas and have been my bouncing board throughout the project. And if you've not heard of Belly Dance Business Academy, you have to go check it out. I met Lisa and Allred through the Belly Dance Business Academy. I tell you, it is the one-of-a-kind resource center for belly dancers in the world. You don't find topics such as what they offer anywhere else. So there are a lot of business-related topics which are so important for a belly dancer, but don't get really discussed anywhere, right? So we're talking about how to start, how to have a classroom plan, how to make your syllabus, the psychology of dance, like from moving from self-doubt to self-confidence, your superpower, how to conduct multi-level classes. So there are many classes out there which is so hard to find anywhere else. And the best part is they have a one-to-one coaching circle every month. That's what I was a part of, and I tell you, I used to wake up at 5 a.m. in the morning India time to be on that circle, and it's so worth it. You get to connect with dancers and professional teachers from all over the world who share their insights and ideas on how to take your teaching to the next level and how to grow as a professional belly dancer. So do check them out. They have hundreds of on-demand classes, and at a very reasonable price, and so many of them are for free. To go check them out. And yeah, they just started with 20 students, and now there's 3,000 students and growing. So yeah, and they're always up for helping you, supporting you, and they have lots of new things coming up given the COVID situation. They have a lot of new offerings, so definitely go check them out. Right, so Lisa is a co-owner of the Belly Dance Business Academy, so we can't thank her enough for having such an amazing resourceful site. She's also got huge production experience. She's been on the production team every year for the reunion and ATS attacks, and she's also the producer of Cirque du Slay, which is such a cool name, right? And she's also a foundation teacher for Fly Fusion, and so after dancing and being a co-director for Diasma, which is the FC Fat Chance Belly Dance style or the ATS style professional troupe, she decided to start um, her own troupe, which is called the Red Stage Collaborative. And they have a show on June 19th. So we're going to link you up in the comment section to their show where you can buy their tickets, go support them because they are also a fundraiser and they are doing some amazing work. So yeah, and they're going to showcase in their show ATS and Fly Fusion. So yeah, it's going to be amazing. You have to check it out and you have to support them. And Lisa is also a licensed social worker for over 30 years, serving communities, children, families, and nonprofits. So yeah, I think she's got a lot that she handles. In fact, just making her bio data, I was like, whoa, she's handling so much. And she's going to tell you a little bit about the secret of how she manages all of this, and how she pulls it all off with her current workshop, which she's going to give you deep insights on how you can have that for yourself as well. So welcome to Drills and Donuts, and over to you, Lisa.
Thank you so much. What a amazing introduction, and I love what you said about our borders melting away. I feel that so strongly right now, even more now than ever, with all of the things going on in the world and the way that we as dancers are supporting each other. And I want to start my workshop by saying, please, if you have not, go and donate some money. I'm completely floored by the fact that $50 will support a family for a month. We'll give them what they need. Many of the teachers are donating our any payment that we would get from the workshop to the cause, but we're also donating in addition to that. And I'm really pleased to be helping support this really important cause, and people that have families, have loved ones, and just need a little bit of extra support to get home. So please do that. So on to the workshop. The title of this workshop is Drills and Donuts, and I had a chat with a participant this morning and realized that maybe it doesn't translate so well. So it's a cheeky, silly title to talk about how do we, as everyday people, and I mean everyday dancers in comparison to someone who might have dance as their full-time job. Like I have a full-time job. I've just taken the morning off of my full-time job to come do my dance stuff. And so how do those of us who are kind of normal people, not famous belly dancers, manage to get in the kind of practice, to get to class, to get all of the things done? And so that's how I came up with the name. I am sorry that we're not doing this in person, because in person I bring donuts to my workshops. So maybe sometime when the pandemic is over, we can have a workshop together and I can bring donuts. The workshop is about building habits and motivation in order to achieve anything that we want to achieve. I'm focusing it today, as I said, on dance and on dance goals, because this is a international dance conference, belly dance conference. But know that any of the things that I talk about today, they're science-based, research-based strategies that we know help people modify their behavior. If you have a habit or something you want to start doing or something you want to stop doing, these strategies will work everything from cutting out sugar to getting in the daily dance practice. So just know that although I'll be applying everything to dance, you can really take this information and run with it and apply it to all areas of your life. You can see my screen lighting up. It's raining here, and so the sun just peeked through. So good morning, everybody. Solani and Terry and Deanna, please say hello. I've got my camera set up, my phone set up on a stand behind me so I can see you. And now we'll go ahead and get started with the presentation. So I am going to share my screen and pull up the presentation, and I'm going to be stopping a lot to just see if you have anything you want to talk about based on the slides, based on your personal experience, questions that you want to ask. So let's go. We have practiced this, so this should go off without a hitch. Yay, it did, I think. So, drills and donuts. So let's start by talking a little bit about the workshop goals. So today I want to encourage the use of habits for short-term behavior change, so short-term sustainability. And I want to talk about motivation based on emotions. How do you use emotions to motivate behavior change? And this motivation can result in long-term sustainability or long-term change. So two barrels we're going to address today. In the first barrel, we're going to talk about habits and how to form habits, and that's really good for short-term behavior. Second barrel, we're going to talk about motivation and how to use emotions that we already feel to motivate behavior changes on a long-term basis. So here we go. So I want to start by talking a little bit about why it's so difficult to change our behaviors. Why is it so difficult to get out of bed and exercise? Why is it so difficult to eat a salad with dinner, to get those veggies in that you need? Part of the reason that it's so difficult is because as humans, we have a battle between our current self and our future self, and we tend to devalue our future self. So we tend to want to do things that make us feel good or feel good for us in the moment and not think about what the longer term consequence is. There's a lot of research in psychology about how this plays out. And in general, people will only delay gratification if it has a really huge and tangible payoff. So if I offered you $100 to wait until tomorrow to take this workshop, that's a pretty huge and tangible payoff. You probably would turn off the computer right now and send me a message and say, hey, I'm taking you up on your offer. This is an example. It's pretend. I'm not really offering you $100. But if I offered you, I'll send you an email, well, that's not very motivating. You've already planned, you're already, going to do something today. You've set it aside on your calendar. And so it's not very motivating. And, that's a small example, and there's not really a payoff for us to wait and do the workshop tomorrow. But it's an example of how we tend to only be willing to delay things that have a huge payoff. And if we think about getting up in the morning and practicing dance, are we going to see the immediate results? Maybe not. We might in a couple of weeks see results from improved stamina and feeling a little bit better in terms of exercise. But in general, we're not going to see our dance get a lot better for a little bit longer. I mean, it's going to take a month or two to have any kind of payoff. So that's one of the reasons, is it's really difficult for us to put as much value on our future selves as our current selves. The other reason is that despite the fact that we have been told, or I certainly have been told my whole life, that willpower is like a muscle. The more you practice it, the stronger it becomes. That's actually not true. And it's not true based on research, not just our personal experience. Willpower fatigues throughout the day, and it's actually a very weak tool to use to try to set new habits or get rid of old habits or to use to motivate your behavior change. It's a very weak tool, despite the fact that, at least in the US, for the last 30 years, a whole fitness and wellness industry has emerged and failed, I might add, at creating societal change through willpower and creating long-term health change through willpower. And not only does it not work well, it also has some negative consequences. If we believe that our moral character is connected to our willpower to do things, and then we fail at exercising this willpower day in and day out, well, that can be a problem. It can make us feel bad about ourselves. So it doesn't work, and it can make us feel really bad about ourselves and become demotivated and not wanting to try anymore. So I think everybody will agree that the things that we have been doing are not very successful. Here's another slide about that. So our inability to use willpower, and I gave you some other names for it because in our world it's called more than one thing. You might have heard of the power of grit, or making commitments by using commitment devices, or executive functioning and how we need to improve our executive functioning, or if we just rationally analyze things. So all of those are different ways that we as a culture say willpower. But like I said, it reinforces that we have poor control when really we don't. It's easy to reason out of. So there are lots of exceptions. I didn't sleep but 5 hours last night, so therefore I'm not going to get up and practice this morning. So there's a lot of ways that we can excuse ourselves and give ourselves the option not to do what we have committed to do. And if we think about it from an evolutionary perspective, as a society, we are not reinforced for doing things that only benefit ourselves. We are reinforced for things that benefit our community and the sustainability of our community. And so that's why what I'm going to talk about next, using social emotions to motivate behavior change, is so powerful. It literally is written into our genetic code. We couldn't use a tool that is more powerful than this tool. I don't have on the PowerPoint, I don't have some of the resources of the different authors that I have pulled this information from, that I research in order to pull together this presentation, but I'll add that to the notes. I am a real research person, and I love it. It's part of my work as a clinical social worker, and my Psychology of Dance blog. And so I am happy to talk research with anybody that wants to talk research. So before we go on to the new way of changing behavior, does anyone have a question about the old way of changing behavior? I just want to make sure that I don't move on and if there aren't any questions. And Lena has volunteered to let me know if there's any questions. No questions? Okay. So I had to minimize my screen because I have to be able to see what time it is. So I have to keep myself on track. And I realize if I have Facebook up, I can't see the clock on my cell phone. Okay, so now we're going to talk about the exciting stuff. And this is what the foundation of the workshop is today. It's how we use what I'm calling social emotions to motivate our behavior change. So what are the social emotions that have been researched? One is gratitude. And many of you, certainly those at the Belly Dance Business Academy, have seen that I have a whole class on gratitude, and it's free. This class is about how to use a gratitude practice for stress management, which is certainly something that we could all probably benefit from right now, is a little bit of stress management. So the first social emotion that's been researched is gratitude. The second is compassion. And the third is pride. And I have pride, but beside that I have in parentheses, about skills that you really possess. So folks out there that are narcissistic, that are a bit self-inflated, that consider skills that they have as not, as really great when they're not really great. The problem with that is that does not work for these social emotions. So you have to use pride to motivate behavior change about skills that you really possess. So, for example, I could be really proud about my ability to do math, but I don't actually possess a skill in that area. And so it's not going to do me any good to motivate my behavior. Whereas if I am proud of the fact that I am helping people by teaching weekly dance classes, then when I have to get off the couch and put on dance clothes and fight with the gravity of the couch at the end of the day, then using that pride about the fact that I am helping people and feeling good about that, along with compassion and gratitude, I'll talk about that later, but that's something that will get me motivated, get me moving, even if I don't feel like being motivated or being moving. So gratitude, compassion, and pride. And we're talking about those three emotions because there's been a lot of research done on those three emotions as social emotions that can motivate behavior change. So gratitude kind of makes sense. When we feel grateful, we offer people help. When we feel compassion, we do things for other people. I have a lot of compassion for families that are stranded in India right now, migrant worker families. And that compassion prompts me to look at my budget this month and say, hey, how many families can I support this month by cutting back on some things that I might normally do? And that's compassion that's motivating behavior change. And I already talked about pride. When we work hard, we take pride in the result. And part of it is because of the internal feeling, and part of it is because of the external reinforcement we get, the admiration of other people. So these social emotions naturally encourage self-control and patience. Again, like I said, this is all research-based. There's research that says that if you are engaging in or thinking about these emotions and how you feel about people based on gratitude, compassion, or pride, you're 30% more likely to stick to a difficult task. You are twice as likely to be willing to delay gratification to help someone else if you're feeling compassion or gratitude for them. Students, college students who practice gratitude, compassion, and pride, and I'm going to talk a little bit later about how you practice these things, they have better academic performance. People are more likely to exercise and eat healthy. And then people are less likely to use tobacco, use alcohol in irresponsible ways or harmful ways. And it results in lower levels of consumerism. People don't feel like they need things to make them happy. They are engaging in helping other people using these emotions and motivating positive behavior change. And so they don't feel like there's an empty hole they have to constantly fill with things. So I already talked about evolution and why, from an evolutionary standpoint, this works. Think about hunter and gatherer society. People and the society itself only survived if everyone cooperated and you had to add value to the group. And so it makes sense. So the really exciting thing for me about why this works is because you're not changing what you desire. You're not saying, I no longer desire to relax on the couch at the end of a workday and watch TV. So you're not fighting that desire, you're changing it. You're changing it to, I want to meet with my dance students. I want to give them a good experience of exercise. I care about them. I want to help reduce their stress, and I want to help them stay in community during this pandemic time. So does that all make sense? please, please, please stop me if it doesn't. This is the foundation for our conversation about motivation. The habit change, which we'll talk about after motivation, that's a lot more straightforward. But talking about these social emotions as ways to motivate our behavior change, that's a little bit more theoretical. Any questions, Lena?
No questions so far, Lisa.
Okay, don't hesitate to ask. So, gratitude. How do we motivate behavior change with gratitude? Well, the first things that we want to do is we want to increase the level of gratitude that we feel every day. And we can do that by taking very simple steps. One step is to have a daily gratitude journal. And that's writing down little things that you're grateful for every day. Some people start their day with the gratitude journal. Some people, like me, end their day with a gratitude journal. I've been doing this for about 3 years now, and it has made a huge difference in the way that I perceive situations that I'm engaged in, and also my ability to emotionally regulate. So now I don't just think about things that I'm grateful for at the end of the day, but if I am having a really stressful day, if I get super irritated at someone, if I'm feeling discouraged, really anytime I feel like I need help regulating my emotions, then I will stop myself and I will think about things I'm grateful for. And sometimes when you're in a funk and you're in a bad place, it's hard to think about things you're grateful for. So I'll look around the room. Okay, there's a picture of my child at her high school graduation. I am thankful that she is, a healthy, happy, functioning adult. I see a wind chime that Terry, who's on the call, thank you for being on the call, my sister gave me, that's yellow and has sea glass on it and driftwood. I'm thankful for that wind chime. I have it sitting beside my desk so I can look at it, and it makes me think of the beach and it makes me think of the elements. So my point being is that if you can't think of anything, just look around you. Open up your senses. Look for things, feel things, hear things. And that can help you find things. I have in parentheses that don't always pick big things, because if you pick big things every time, they start to lose their power. So if every time you add, I'm grateful that I have a roof over my head, to your gratitude journal, then eventually that loses its power for you to have the positive results that come from a gratitude practice in terms of your feelings and your motivation. So yes, we are grateful, those of us that have a roof over our head, but for the gratitude journal and gratitude practice to be the most effective, we have to pick out the little things, not always the big things. Someone who held a door for you, someone who gave you directions. You can tell that I wrote this PowerPoint before the pandemic, because right now the only person holding the door for me is me. But we'll be back to it at some point. So doing things like starting a gratitude practice, a journal, reminding yourself of things that you're grateful for, that can have an effect in as short as 3 weeks. You can start feeling the benefits of doing that in your ability to have more self-control. And so this is an example of using a social emotion to motivate your behavior. Okay, we'll go on to compassion. So, we know what compassion is. Compassion is how we feel for other people. It's when we feel like they have something in common with us, when we feel the borders melting away, as Lena said, when we feel like we're all people and we're all valuable and we're all hurting, and those of us who are hurting more need help from those of us that are hurting less. And that's what compassion is. And there's some research-based ways that we can increase our level of compassion. Some people are super compassionate. Some people actually have to dial it back a bit for self-care. But other people, that may not be their default. Compassion may not be their default. And so there are a lot of things that you can do to build your sense of compassion in the world. One of the things that you can do is mindful meditation. About 10 minutes a day is what research says will help you increase your compassion. So, mindful meditation can look a lot of different ways. You can decide that you're going to do a task, wash the dishes, let's say, and that you are going to only think about washing the dishes for the 10 minutes that you do it. You're going to think about how the dish feels when you pick it up. You're going to think about the soap and how it feels on your hand. You're going to listen to the water as it runs. You're going to smell the scent of the dishwashing soap you're using. You're going to watch the water bead off the plate as you put it in the drying rack. So you get the picture. You can be mindful about anything that you do during the day. You can have a meditation practice. You can do what I tend to do, which is meditate while I'm moving. As a yoga practice, getting into a meditative state, or even with dance. I think that a lot of the times when we dance, we have to be so mindful and so focused on what we're doing, then it can become meditative. It certainly is for me. At times in my life when I've had to stop dancing, I had a hip replacement about a year and a half ago, and I had to stop dancing for a few months. I mean, that was a big deal because I lost one of my main sources of meditation, and that was getting in the flow of group improvisation when I dance. And so I had to make up for that in other areas. So mindful meditation, that can take a lot of different forms. Another thing that I think is something that we all should practice doing, and I don't think that it's something that we are as aware of that we should be doing, and that is practicing perspective taking. So once a day, try to see something from someone else's point of view. It can be an argument that you had with a loved one and you're trying to see their point of view on the argument, or it can be something not nearly as emotionally charged. You can pick trying to think about the mail carrier and what life must be like as a mail carrier right now. And, getting up in the morning and having to go out and being outside but handling a lot of packages. And, are you concerned for your family? Are you concerned for yourself? Are you hot because you're wearing a mask? So it's basically thinking about the world from someone else's perspective. Thinking about the migrant workers in India that are displaced and what it must feel like to be away from home, exhausted, trying to take care of your loved ones, and not having enough food and water. I mean, that's perspective taking. Taking a moment to think about what it's like to be in someone else's shoes. And that increases your level of compassion. And if you do it every day, it's going to significantly increase your level of compassion in about 3 or 4 weeks. All of these social emotions, when you start practicing them, it takes about 3 or 4 weeks before you really see the benefit. So we talked at the beginning about how sometimes we're not able to motivate behavior change because we don't value our future self as much as we value our current self. And so another thing that you can do to work on compassion towards yourself is to write a letter to your future self. So I'm 53 years old. I could write a letter to 80-year-old Lisa and talk about the things that I want when I'm 80 years old. I still want to be dancing. Maybe I won't be spinning, but I still want to be up and moving. So what do I need to do now to ensure that 80-year-old Lisa can still dance? So writing a letter to your future self is a way to build your compassion towards you. And I love this, and you're going to love this too. There's a lot of research that synchronized movement increases the compassion you feel towards the people that you're synchronizing the movement with. So an example in the research is marching in the military. But we all know we have an example much closer to home. When we dance with people, we synchronize more than just our movement. We synchronize our hearts. And that's the way that compassion, it's one way that we can practice compassion in our life, is we can be with people and move with people and synchronize that movement, and it literally opens our hearts. And we're already doing that. We're dancers. We're already doing that. So, congratulations. Okay, the third and final social emotion I'm going to talk about today is pride. So, I already said that when you feel proud of yourself for things that you're good at and that you've done well, then it motivates you to do more of those things because you feel good about yourself. But it also motivates you to do more of those things because you like the response that you're getting from other people. So this is basic behavior modification. When you're rewarded for something that you do, you're more likely to do it again. So it works on ourselves, it works on other people. If your child or your partner um, engages in a behavior that you really, really like, and you reinforce that behavior by praising it, by saying you're proud of it, by pointing it out, then it's much more likely for that behavior to occur again. And it's the same for yourself with pride. If you feel proud of something that you did, and you're getting the internal positive, and you're also getting some external positive, then you're really a lot more likely to engage in that behavior again. I had a dance student, a local dance student, who is not taking dance classes with me right now, but she sent me a message and she said, I can't take class right now, but I just want to tell you that I've been following you on social media and I'm so proud of what you're doing for the dance community. You know, doing workshops on, motivation to raise money for migrant workers in India, doing free classes to raise money for Black Lives Matter, things like that. And so, what is that likely to do? Her sending me that message makes me proud of something that already is giving me internal good feelings for doing, but having the external reinforcement makes it more likely for me to continue doing those things. So now you can see how all of these social emotions can really drive your ability to motivate your behavior change. But there are lots of other benefits for cultivating these emotions as well. Emotions are contagious. When you are feeling compassionate and you're feeling like your emotions are well regulated, you're feeling compassion and kindness towards other people, then people who come into contact with you will catch that. They're contagious. Think about the last time that you walked into a room and it just felt heavy. Somebody was in a bad mood and it seemed like their mood was just infecting everyone in the room. Now think about a time that a similar thing happened, that you walked into a room and there was someone who was just so bubbly and kind and energetic and helpful that you could not help but be in a better mood than you were when you got there. So emotions are really contagious. And so as we get our emotions and start using them to make the world a better place and to motivate our behavior change, then it's going to rub off on other people. Being positive and cultivating these positive emotions pulls people into you that are more supportive. It helps you build a supportive network, and that makes you more resilient. It makes you more willing to sacrifice to help other people, and it encourages you to see people as more trustworthy. So let me take a second and highlight that. So when you practice these social emotions and increase your ability to feel them, both in intensity and frequency, you see other people as more trustworthy. So just think about the cultural implications of that, the national implications, and even the global implications. If you're a more compassionate and gracious person, then you're more likely to connect to other people that are different than you. So as you can see, at this time in our world and in our lives, this is life-changing. It's not just about starting a dance practice. So, okay. So before we move on, let me give a couple of examples. And if you have an example of a way that you've used a social emotion to change a behavior, then I'd love to hear about it. Um, so, so I'm going to give examples from my life about ways that I have used social emotions to change my behavior. So I don't know, my entire life I have had a difficult time with um, consuming uh, processed sugar. I completely am addicted to it and have been. And then about a year and a half ago, I had a health situation where the doctor and the nutritionist I was working with said, your poor health and the really difficult symptoms that you're dealing with right now are being caused because of your consumption of processed foods and sugar. And if you stop consuming them, then you're going to feel a lot better and you're going to be a better mom, a better partner, a better worker. Okay, the doctor didn't say that, but did say I was going to feel a lot better. What I added on is that I realized that it wasn't about weight, it wasn't even about health and my future self, because I didn't have as much compassion for my future self as I did gratitude and love and compassion towards my child. My child's 20, but still, I did not want my child to have to deal with a mother who was sick and, you know, lethargic and didn't have a lot of energy. And so I harnessed that compassion and that gratitude that I felt, those social emotions, and I was able to do what I've never been able to do before because of willpower. I've been able to stop consuming processed sugar for a year and a half. So never before had I tried to frame a behavior change in terms of the way that it impacted other people. You know, I already shared my my use of dance right now to deal with grief and rage and fear related to all of the things going on in the U.S. as well as the global pandemic. And you know, Lena said when she introduced me, how do you do all this stuff? I mean, part of the way that I do it, I'm teaching all the classes that I'm teaching because for me, that's a way that I can engage my social emotion to make a difference in people's lives. There's some things that I can't do. I can't donate thousands of dollars to a charity. I can't go out and protest because I have a elderly parent that lives with me. But what I can do is I can make sure that I show up to teach workshops that improve people's life right now. I can make sure that I show up to teach dance classes. And so I might not feel like doing it, as I said earlier, but it's not a decision that I have to make every day. It's a decision that I've already made. I've already decided that I'm going to teach 5 classes a week because the local students really need the exercise in the community. And so using that compassion is not like I don't feel like doing it today. Um, and the same goes for practicing. Like I do group improvisational dance. Well, I can't teach formations right now. There's a lot of stuff that I teach that is just very difficult to do online. And so my daily dance practice is about learning new content so that I can teach my students. So when it's time for me to get up and practice, there's not a question about whether I'm going to do it or not. I have students on Saturday that want some new material. They're counting on me. And so I just do it. It's not even an option of whether I feel like it or not. And I do it because of these social emotions. So I'm going to pause just for a second before we go into the habit part of our workshop to see if anybody has questions about how you harness these social emotions for behavior change.
Yeah, there have been a few questions. So somebody said it's quite difficult to meditate for me. I can't help multiple thoughts going through my head. How do I overcome that? Then there's another question is one second. And Lacey commented on that saying that I personally I like either movement meditation or I like creating worlds. So instead of Nothing meditation. I imagine a forest with a jade palace that changes colors, that changes, sorry, that changes colors, elements, etc. that resonate. That is just what works for me. Or if you would have a drum, especially a frame drum, I love doing a heartbeat rhythm to ground and have a quiet meditation. Some meditations can be triggering depending on your own personal neurodiversity. So find what works for you. So,
Yeah, I love that comment. That's a great comment because there you do have to pay attention to the world around you and the things that seem to help you get into that meditative state of calm and relaxation and feeling like you're in tune with the world. And absolutely, I mean, my 20-year-old's not going to let me listen to her heartbeat right now, but when she was a baby, that was one of the most meditative things that I was able to do is just listen to her heartbeat and focus on her heartbeat and know that, that was life and connection with the universe and um, yeah, so absolutely I agree with that. And I completely get how difficult it is for some people to meditate. And I think it's because they're thinking about meditation as you have to sit still, and you really don't have to sit still. It's more about um, focusing and being mindful of what you're doing. And so, one of the ways that I meditate in addition to dance is I walk. I walk. I try to stay fully present. I don't have earbuds and music in. I'm noticing the smell of the fresh cut grass, or I'm noticing the sound of the train that's a few blocks from my house when it goes down the track and blows its toots its horn. I'm noticing the temperature and how there's a bit of dew in the air because it rained last night. And so that can be meditative too, just going outside and taking a walk. Meditation and being able to meditate and be mindful of daily actions, that is something that you have to practice to be better at. It's not going to work well the first time you try it. And I'll tell you, and this is a great example, so I'm glad that you said this or that you asked this. I'll tell you another great example of using social emotions to do something good for me that I was not willing to do just for myself. So, as Lena said in the introduction, I'm one of the producers for what has been called ATS Reunion. Now ATS has changed to Fat Chance Belly Dance Style, but I'll just go Reunion for short. So it's an international conference. We typically have 400 people there, dancers, and I'm part of the team that hosts that conference, and I'm in charge of hospitality. I love that. I mean, talk about social emotions motivating behavior. Put somebody in charge of hospitality for a big international conference, you're going to see some behavior motivated. I tell you that. So, how does this fit with meditation? The way it fits with meditation is I realized that being in charge of hospitality meant that for the most part, I didn't have big breaks during the day. I was getting up at 7 in the morning, I was going to bed at 11 at night, and I needed more rest than that. And so I started thinking about how can I manage my energy when I cannot take a nap and I'm going at that speed. And I did some research, and turns out a great way to manage your energy levels throughout the day is to meditate. It's rejuvenating, it can recharge you when your battery is down. And so I started practicing meditating. I won't say every day because it really was probably more like 5 out of 7 days, because I wanted to be able to sustain energy for long durations of time for this one conference. And I spent a year between one conference where I was exhausted and tired the whole time to the next year practicing spending 20 minutes meditating as a way to recharge myself. I would set my alarm at work, I would practice at work. I got better and better at it. And then the next year at reunion, instead of feeling like I was the walking dead, I was able to go anywhere really, a chair in the corner. I didn't have to go back to my room, and I could sit and I could meditate for 20 minutes, and I can emerge from that meditation feeling energized and refreshed. And years I wanted to start a meditation practice and I didn't. But it was a social emotion. It was feeling the love and the gratitude for the people that come to reunion, feeling proud that people consider reunion a place that they're coming home, that everybody's welcome, that they have a great experience with being, with hospitality there. So all of that made me want to continue doing that and continue upping the hospitality game. So that's a great example of a way that I incorporated meditation in my life, and because of taking care of other people. Okay, other questions, Lena, before we go on to habits? Sorry, I don't have sound for you.
Sorry, there's one more question. Even after following the gratitude, it does get overwhelming. Sometimes looking at others, you experience the same. What should one do?
Okay, I got some gratitude looking at others, but I missed the middle part.
Yeah, okay. So, even after following the gratitude, it does get overwhelming sometimes looking at others. Do you experience the same? What should one do?
What a great question. Thank you for that question. So, yeah, we're talking about ramping up these social emotions, but sometimes we have to contain them because they're overtaking our life, and they become ways that we are avoiding taking care of ourselves rather than ways that we are encouraged to do positive things for ourselves. And that's where having emotional boundaries come in. And that's where knowing yourself and knowing the extent to which you're burning out from these social emotions. They're great to latch onto to motivate positive behavior change, but if you're not taking care of yourself and you're only taking care of other people, then you're right. Having the gratitude, having the compassion is going to wear you down. And it's a balance that you have to strike. And part of that balance is knowing what energizes you and what feeds your soul and the things that you need in your life to take care of yourself, and not giving so much or using these social emotions to motivate so much behavior change that you're feeling lost. I mean, the goal would be for these social emotions to increase your energy and increase behaviors that take care of yourself. If they're decreasing your energy and decreasing behaviors that take care of yourself, then I strongly urge you to talk to a friend to help you kind of process through what's happening and how you can pull back or redirect. But that's such a great point because I think, particularly as women, in most cultures, we're socialized to do for other people and to do for other people at the expense of our own emotional and physical well being. And that's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is using these emotions not to ignore taking care of yourself, but to increase taking care of yourself, to increase your ability to act on behaviors that are good for you and good for your community. Um, so it's about self-care, and self-care held in tension with doing things for other people and engaging these social emotions. Does that help?
Yeah, I think those are the questions so far. Yes.
Yeah, great question. So now I'm going to move on to habits. This is less theoretical and much more concrete. And so I don't think we'll need as much time, which is good. We got about 35 minutes left. Um, so, as I said at the beginning of the workshop, social emotions motivate long-term behavior change. So that's the thing. They're the practices that you put in place because the payoff is going to be down the road a bit. You'll start seeing some payoff in 3 or 4 weeks, but really the payoff is going to be 6, 9 months, a year from now from practicing these things. Habits and the tips that I'm going to share about developing habits, and again, these are science-based tips, they're things that you can start benefiting from almost immediately. I mean, certainly within a week. So I'm going to share a series of my favorite tips for developing habits. The first is called implementation intentions. And that is just a fancy way to say make a plan. Make a plan for something that you want to do. At one point, it was another failed healthy eating attempt back in my 20s. But the motto for this healthy eating program I was trying to do was fail to plan, plan to fail. And so basically, if you don't plan, then you're planning that failure is going to happen. So you have to plan if you want something to be successful. And the way to plan a behavior change or a new habit is to be very specific. I will, eat vegetables at breakfast time, in my smoothie, in my kitchen, and I'm going to make that happen by always having spinach on my grocery list. So you have to be super specific in order for a behavior to change and to build a new habit. So I like this a lot, and you have to ask yourself, so if you, for example, want to drill dance more, since that's kind of what this workshop is about, so it's not enough to say, I want to improve my shimmy, and so I'm going to practice shimmying every day. Well, guess what? It's not going to work because you haven't been specific. You have identified a behavior, although I might argue that it would be better to get more specific. Exactly what are you trying to improve about your shimmy? I have had that as a dance practice goal, and specifically, my left hip drops and is not as strong as my right hip when I'm engaging in a super fast 3/4 shimmy. So that is the specific behavior that I am targeting with the practice that I'm doing. The time, schedule it in like an appointment on your calendar. Treat it like you would if you had a lunch date with a friend. The new habit that you're trying to form, make a commitment to it. And then foresee where you're going to do that. Right now, most of us are at home. Some of us are at work. Is there a place at work that you can, on your lunch hour, practice your shimmy and not dropping your left hip? So the more specific and clear you are about what you want, how you're going to make this happen, the more likely it is to actually happen. And there's tons of research to back this up. Okay, my single favorite habit tip is called habit stacking. It is hands down the one that I use the most in my personal life. And that is taking an activity that you already do every day without thinking about it and pairing the new activity with it. So I'll give you some examples of the way that this has been successful for me. So I used to do really bad floreos. I would keep my fingers spread apart. It looked like I was doing jazz hands. So I really needed to practice my floreos. So I decided that I was going to habit stack the practice. And I decided that every time I went to the restroom, after I washed my hands, I was going to stand at the bathroom mirror and I was going to practice my floreos for, I don't know, a minute. It doesn't matter. If you go to the restroom 10 times a day, then you've practiced for 10 minutes. If you practice it for 3 minutes after every time, you've practiced for 30 minutes by the end of the day. So I knew for myself that using this habit stacking strategy and building the habit in small little chunks throughout the day and pairing what the new behavior with the old behavior that I did without even thinking, that's successful for me. I have a Achilles tendon strain right now, and I live in a little townhouse that has stairs. So when I go to the bottom of the stairs to walk upstairs, which I do, I don't know, a half a dozen times a day for one reason or another, I have paired walking to the stairs with the activity in my mind, the habit that I want to form, which is to do heel lifts on the bottom stair to strengthen my Achilles tendon on my right foot. So every time I walk to the stairs, I'm like, oh yeah, Achilles heel lifts, to help my Achilles tendon. And so I've paired the new habit that I want to form with something that I already do. So when I'm coaching people and helping them with behavior change, that's what I say. I say, let's think about the things you do every day. How can we pair that with something else? My students, everybody brushes their teeth. I'd say pretty much twice a day. So what dance thing can you do while you're brushing your teeth? It's a no-brainer. You're just stacking a current habit. You're stacking a new habit on top of a current habit. So that's my first habit tip is implementation intentions, which is basically just plan. Make a detailed plan. And if you can stack a habit, that's even better. It just works so well for me. And hopefully it'll work well for you too if you haven't already been doing it. Okay, I'll go over the next habit tip before we move on because this one is very similar to the habit stacking. And then we'll pause and see if you have any times that you have successfully used habit stacking or if you have any questions about that. So the next habit tip is called temptation bundling. So in the psychology literature, there's this thing called Premack's principle. Makes no difference. You don't need to remember that. One might argue that there's not really even any point for me adding it to the presentation, but it's kind of giving credit. And that principle says that more probable behaviors will reinforce less probable behaviors. So, if you love audiobooks but hate cleaning, only listen to your Harry Potter audiobook while you're scrubbing the bathroom. Don't allow yourself to do it any other time. You're taking a probable behavior, listening to audiobooks, something that you really enjoy doing, and you're pairing it with a less probable behavior, cleaning the bathroom, so that you're more likely to do the less probable behavior, cleaning the bathroom. This worked great for me at a time in my life where I wanted to get up and practice dance in the morning. Okay, this isn't a great example for mindfulness, but it worked. There was a morning news show that I really loved to watch, and so I would get up 30 minutes early, and I would do just kind of rote hip drills while I watched this 30-minute show. And I use that when I go to the gym. Pre-pandemic, I'll take my phone and I'll put on a podcast that I want to listen to, maybe even one that I've started and I made myself stop the last time I got off the treadmill, and then I'm anxious to get back to it the next time I get on. So using something that you already know you love doing and telling yourself you're only allowed to do it while you're doing something that you want to be motivated to do. So those are both really similar examples of planning, habit stacking, temptation building. Is all about pairing either behaviors you do every day or behaviors you love doing with things that you're not as likely to do or things that you want to start doing, habits that you want to start engaging in. Do we have any questions or comments, Lena, at this point? You're muted, sorry.
Yeah. Sorry, there are no questions. There's a comment saying this is so helpful. I'll totally give it a try. There's also somebody who said, I cannot agree. I completely agree with your point in supporting. However, you can, even if you can't, for example, go for protest, you can still give your best by giving free sessions and supporting the cause. And Terry says, I lift weights so I can lift my grandkids. And yeah, I think that was.
Yeah, and I love that example that Terry shared about how she lifts weights every day because she realized when she was visiting her grandkids one time that as they get older, they get heavier. And she's like, I got to muscle up, like I got to build some muscles and some strength so that I can be carrying around grandkids. And I love that. That is such a great example of a social emotion driving, motivating a behavior change. So basically her love for these kids and, wanting to be healthy and vibrant, for engaging with this kid, is these kids are driving her ability to make herself go lift weights when she may not want to. She may not feel like it. She may be sad or tired or need to do something else, but she knows that if she continues lifting weights, that she's going to continue staying strong, to play with her grandkids and toss them around and carry them around. And so that's such a great example. And I use that example a lot of times when I'm doing this presentation, Terry's example. So thank you for sharing that, Terry.
I had a
Uh,
question actually as well.
yeah,
In talking about habit stacking, I do a lot of that. I tend to put them as sticky notes on my bathroom door or places where I know I'm going to see. But
yeah,
happened that I'm trying to build, maybe I'm trying to build too many habits at the same time, maybe four or five. And over time, I tend to slip up on making that a habit because I think I'm trying to chase maybe more than one. And is it that would you recommend doing one at a time and solidifying it? And
yeah. So
keeping
that's another great question. And I would recommend doing 3 at a time.
yeah,
And this comes from my training as a child therapist and wanting to help uh, kids motivate behavior change through rewards and consequences. But it works for all ages. So if you pick 3 things to work on, make one of them easy that you feel like you can probably succeed at. Make one of them difficult and make one of them medium. And the reason that you're including an easy goal is because you need to feel success. And when you feel success and are proud of yourself for succeeding at one of your goals, then that social emotion of pride enables you to better succeed at your other goals.
yeah.
So, absolutely, you're right. 4 or 5 is too many. Sticky notes are great, but for me, I start to just not see them. Like if they're up for too long, and that's why the habit stacking works for me. So I used to put sticky notes on my restroom, bathroom mirror, but then I just started not even realizing they were there, not paying attention to them. And that's when I discovered the habit stacking. You know, what do you do in the bathroom mirror? You put on your makeup. Okay, I'm not going to shimmy while I put on my makeup, but I could do some chest lifts and some, chest isolations while I'm doing that, if that's something I want to practice. So again, it's back to the pairing. So, but that's a great question. Thank you for that. Okay, so our next habit tip, and I sure do wish I had remembered how many habit tips I put in here. Our next habit tip is to make new habits more attractive. So we are more successful at maintaining new habits if we associate with people who have those habits. So, if my friends get up and practice dance in the morning before they go to work, I don't have to practice with them. I don't have to be in the same place. I don't have to call them at that time and make sure we're both doing it. Although all of those things are a good idea, just the fact that I have friends that are doing the behavior that I want to do makes me more successful at the behavior. And social system is so critical in behavior change. And if you think about, for me as a mental health provider, working with folks who have substance abuse problems, who abuse alcohol, if they start spending time with people who don't abuse alcohol, who don't even drink, then it doesn't matter whether they're with the person all the time. That the habits of the people you spend time with rub off on you. And we talked about that at the first slide with the social emotions. If you start becoming more positive, more expressing more gratitude, then you're going to draw people into you that do that. So you don't have to meet them. But it is helpful to have a kind of accountability partner, someone that you touch base with that's also trying to develop the same habit that you are, because that just adds to your ability to be successful. And it's because of the social emotion. I mean, the one time in my life that I was a runner, it was because Terry wanted to do a half marathon. She had had a head injury and had migraines and was really just getting back into physical shape, and she's like, we need to do a half marathon. And the only reason that I did it and got up and ran every day was because I she was counting on me, and I knew she was doing it too. And so even though we didn't always do it together because we lived in different cities, we didn't always run together, we still knew each other was doing it. And we would check in later in the day and say, hey, how'd your run go? So doing something with someone, having an accountability partner is great, but it's not even necessary. You just need to spend time with people that are already doing the habit you want to create. And then another tip is to have minimum viable effort in your habit. Okay, so what does that mean? It's kind of like the intention, implementation. It's just minimum viable effort is a fancy way of making it as very easy as is humanly possible. So, examples of that in the research are, if you're trying to start flossing your teeth, just floss one tooth. If you're trying to build a meditation practice, just set your timer on your phone for 1 minute and meditate for a minute. If you're overwhelmed at how messy your room is, just put away one item of clothes. And that's it. That's it. Just do one thing. And this works for two reasons. One reason is because when you have set a goal of doing one thing and you do it, you feel proud. You achieved a goal. It's the same theory as why you put an easy goal on your goal list, is because then you can harness the social emotion to help you with the other goals. The other reason is that if you can start with something really easy and do it consistently every day, it becomes a gateway habit. So once you do one squat or you floss one tooth, you've already got the dental floss in your hand, you've already put on the clothes to do your exercise in, and 9 times out of 10 you'll think, might as well do it again, I've done it already. I use this a lot when I need to but don't want to do something. I remember I was moving out of a house to a very small townhouse, and I called Terry and I was like, I don't know where to start. I don't know how to do this. I'm a single person trying to pack up a house that was bought when I was married. I have people that I take care of. I just don't know where to start. It's overwhelming. And she said, you just start with one item in one closet. And that's where I started. And once I started on the one item in the one closet, I was like, okay, this isn't so bad. I can do another item. And it just started by taking that one small step. So whatever habit you want to form, try to drill down and make it the easiest you can make it. And start there and feel successful. Okay, I think, this is my last slide, and that's perfect because it's going to give us some more time to share examples and ask questions. So the final habit tip that I'm going to share is the cardinal rule of behavior change. And I talked about this a little bit earlier, but I'm going to talk about it explicitly here. What is immediately rewarded is repeated, and what is immediately punished is avoided. So, if you get up and do your dance practice, and then you reward yourself with a hot shower using your best smelling, expensive shampoo that you only save for special occasions, then you are more likely to repeat the behavior of getting up and exercising. So developing rewards built in for when you achieve success at a behavior or a habit you're trying to develop is a way to strengthen that habit. And we can use that to our advantage. So if you are particularly concerned about your ability to engage in the new habit that you're forming, maybe at first you reward yourself every day when you do that habit. I don't know, a good example, take a walk. You get coffee at your favorite coffee house rather than making it at home. You go sit on your hammock for 10 minutes once you do your exercises. Whatever it is that is a reward for you, at first you may want to give yourself that reward every time you do the habit that you're trying to develop. Eventually, maybe you pick a different reward that's a little bit bigger, that's for the end of the week, if you do the habit all 5 days or all 7 days. But you know yourself, you know what works and what will motivate you, and experiment with it. Be a scientist. Study yourself. Do your new habit once and reward yourself and see how you feel on a scale of 1 to 10. When you get up the next morning, how do you feel about doing the habit? Keep it, write it down, keep track of it. Try a different reward. Are you more motivated or are you less motivated? Try a big reward at the end of the week. More motivated, less motivated. These strategies are science-based, but how you implement the strategies. So the fact that they're research-based means that they do work. But how you implement them is a personal decision that you have to think through based on your personality and what you know about yourself, and experimenting and seeing what works and what doesn't work. So we do this as parents all the time, and I do this personally all the time. I reward myself with something that I want to do after I finish doing something that I don't want to do. So, we have Netflix in my house. A lot of times we'll get on a Netflix series and want to watch the next episode, but I'll say we're not watching the next episode until the dinner dishes are done and the kitchen is straight. So then we're motivated to go in and clean the kitchen, do the dinner dishes, and then we all get to reward ourselves with watching the next Netflix episode for the series that we're on. So that's an example of a cardinal rule of behavior change, and that is what you reward is repeated, what you punish or ignore is avoided. But we're focusing on the first half of that equation, for rewarding ourselves. So I want to end by, I'm going to take questions. There's plenty of time for that. But I'm going to end by, saying what Lena said at the beginning, which is if you like this content, there's a lot of content available on the Belly Dance Business Academy. I've got classes online about energy management. I did a 30-day challenge in January, and every day I posted a 30-minute dance drill video, and where I, during the warm-up, was sharing this information about habits and motivation. So a lot more content, had worksheets, and it's still available online. And Deanna Freeman, one of your festival instructors, partnered with me on this challenge that I did in January. So whereas you can't do it live in January, it's all still recorded, but there's a lot of content available. And then I have a blog on my website, and my website is lisaallreddance.com, and it's called The Psychology of Dance. And you'll find some other real helpful things. I have a blog that just went kind of viral on why to come to dance class if you're injured. It's all about the ways that mental rehearsal is really good for us and improves our performance. So, check out some additional resources. But please, 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 if you enjoyed this workshop at all, if you have anything that you can spare out of your monthly budget, please donate. There's a link in the comments. It's super easy to do. I did it yesterday. The link takes you right to the site. You put in your information, the donation is done. $50 will support a family for a month. So cancel your plans to eat out if your area is open and you can actually eat out. Cancel your subscription to a gourmet food place, whatever you can find in your budget to cut out for a month, just cut it out for $50. You can make the difference in life or death in a family's life. And you can help them get home, and you can help them survive the journey home. So please, please, please show your appreciation to Lena and to all of the other instructors at this festival by donating to this really important cause. And now, by my accounts, we have a few minutes left for questions or comments if anyone has anything that they want to share.
Right. Well, right now it's yeah. So there are no additional questions from when we left off last. Um,
Okay.
yeah. So if you want to share anything at all besides that, too, I think there are no questions right now.
Um, so I will share an announcement that has not been shared yet. And that would be something fun to talk about. So I am about to do an international tour called, um, let's see, let me stop sharing my screen. I think I got a message to stop sharing. Okay. I'm about to do an international virtual tour called Baskets for Relief, where I'm going to be teaching Dainishma basket dialect workshops in different countries virtually, and all of the proceeds from the workshops is going to be given to local charities that do COVID relief. So I had hoped to have the flyer scheduled, or flyer scheduled before today. I've already nailed down dates to teach in Germany, UK, Poland, and I am working out, and those will be in July, and I'm working out dates to teach in Russia, Mexico, and France, and maybe Brazil, and those will be in August. So stay tuned for that. It's another way that I may not be able to donate all the money that I want to donate, but I can donate time, and my time can help raise money for the charities in the countries where I'm going to be teaching.
Nice. Yeah, thank you so much, Lisa. Oh, wow. You're super generous, and I think you've been doing such amazing work supporting different communities, not only back home, but in different countries. I'm so indebted. I'm so honored to have you on board. I'm like, everything that you said, well, I could totally resonate because just today I was having a conversation with my sister who's been struggling with certain habits, and I am so excited to share this material with her because we were actually talking about some of the things you mentioned about habit stacking. We didn't use that word, but we were like, okay, how can we make this possible? Because she's been thinking about this for a while, and also about meditation. We both had decided to start a meditation practice together. And I'm so inspired by the stuff that you mentioned with Terry and being her accountability partner. So I'm totally excited to share what you shared because I think we could make
Wonderful.
use of
And
it.
Lena, thank you so much for hosting this and for inviting me to participate in it. It was such an honor and such a pleasure.
Yeah, I think I'm super honored and super pleasured, and I think you're so generous, Lisa. Not only have you been a backbone and you're teaching here, donating your time, but also you actually went ahead and made a donation to fundraiser, which I'm immensely touched. I'm like that's like super generous and big hearted, and I can't thank you enough. You're such an example of an inspiration to so many people who on what how we can support and share common objectives and basically find ways to meet it together. So I'm so grateful. Thank you, and thank you to your sister Terry as well, who's obviously come and do a workshop with us. But yeah, I know she's watching.
Yeah.
So thank you so much, and yeah, and like Lisa said, go out and share support and maybe give up on that dinner outing tonight. So yeah, cool. So and definitely follow Lisa. Like she's doing amazing work. She's got lots of material on the Belly Dance Business Academy site, on psychology of dance on her own website, and also follow her for her global tour, which is super noble as well. So yeah, pass the word around. Even if you're not a fat chance belly dance style dancer or instructor, you can still find ways to support. Because here we're not even talking about different styles of dance. We are melting all of those labels and borders, and we're coming together as a community. So go out and share in your dance communities, dance groups or FP groups about other people's work, Lisa's work, and other instructors who come on board. So that's always going to go a long way. And I think I always believe karma comes back. So he'll definitely get it back. So, anyways, we have Shahzad coming up in about an hour. So stay tuned. We have exciting contests coming up this evening onwards. So yeah, and I'll see you in a bit. And do share if you've loved this workshop. We want to see a heart. We want to see a word or two about what you experienced in this workshop. So don't forget to leave your comments and definitely spread the message and share your stories and tag Lisa as well. All right. So have a great
Goodbye.
ciao. Bye bye.